name's Alan. And again, Alan, a target individual. And for people who, there's a couple that come to mind that of YouTube sites that don't believe in target individuals. It's Dr. LeGrand and Simon Whistler has one. I respect both people, but when you are a TI and you have this V2K and synthetic, I mean, you have the shots and the shocks and all this, and it's like the FBI, CIA people complaining of Havana syndrome. I mean, you can have somebody else saying it's not, but when you're experiencing it on a daily basis, you just know they're wrong. They can have PhDs in computer science and neurology. You could have the next John Eccles or Karl Popper next to you saying that you're wrong, but it's like, well, say what you want. It's not psychosomatic. It's real. And it really happened in public around 2014. All these groups came out of the woodwork. It was on TV with Havana syndrome. Havana syndrome came out of the woodwork, around 2014 to 2020. And then I think PAX and maybe Icator and FFTI, all of them, there's a lot of them in that 5-year window. Japan, I mean, I don't know when some of them, if it stretches before the 2005, 2008. I know my side pain's been around since 87, 88, while I was in high school. After a football injury, and they operated on but I just had constant chronic side pain. I certainly never thought it was a implanted biometric. I just knew I was side pain and maybe people couldn't figure it out. It wasn't until they started doing the V2K stuff around 2013, 2014, 2015, just the small weird stuff, the holding up the phones. I've never heard of V2K or target individuals. I had no enemies. The people in Dallas I thought were pretty good. I didn't have any enemies, and that includes City Hall. That includes everybody. I thought police and City Hall and hospital people, doctors, my work. I didn't like my brother, but I certainly didn't think anybody had any reason to dislike me. That's for sure. There was no reason for it. But I just figured that I had a pain that nobody could figure out. And it wasn't until they started doing the V2K stuff, but I didn't know there was a name for it. Somebody was pushing some electronic thing that you could hear, but you could hear, but it was like faint. It's like you could hear it, but you had no problem hearing it. And then I went to the Ella Free thing and all this stuff. And it coincided with every night with Havana syndrome. Every night, somebody new from the CIA. Every night, the FBI. The Secret Service. I mean, somebody else having this crickets and then getting hit with this pulse EMP weapon. And then that coincided within a few, that was in November 2019. August 29th of 2019 was the Ella Free rally in Portland. And I had gone 30 years, over 30 years of side pain. But I saw the stuff on the internet for some months beforehand and realized, and it's like, oh, this was done intentionally. This was real and done intentionally to me. And I thought they were all nice, and it's just drain the swamp. Anyway, I won't go into that. But what it is realizing you are part of a brain-computer interface, or they interact, just to see all this molding of human biology with technology. Psychotronics, psychological electronics. There's different words, biometrics, implanted. I mean, whether it's a pacemaker or a knee replacement, we have stuff that's implanted, medical devices all the time that are literally implants. They're put in our body. But it's kind of like the word conspiracy theory or implant. In the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, were in a lot of these movies, and whenever somebody used those words, conspiracy theory, implants, in the government, they always have an actor with a wide-eyed expression, a crazy look, because they knew that they were actually doing this. So they always put a crazy-looking person saying this stuff out there, so that the first reaction is being bombarded with, oh, that's what crazy people think. That's what crazy people hear or do or believe. And then you realize, no, our government has done this many times, experimented on people, whether with like syphilis vaccinations, the Tuskegee Airmen, just experimenting on people. And we really don't know how many, because a lot of the people that were in the original 2014, 2015, this big onslaught of people claiming to be TIs, and it's I wouldn't say it's as weird as all the people out of the blue suddenly becoming transgender, but suddenly anybody who has a bad day suddenly thinks they're targeted by the devil or a TI or they have bad days. But real V2K and getting these painful shocks and jolts, trust me, it's not a fad nobody wants to. For me, I'm glad to finally have an answer for 30 years, now 36, 37 years. But 6 years, 7 years of finally knowing because of the V2K. I would never have suspected that my town, I thought they were pretty good people. I didn't ever think that it was intentionally, but it wasn't until, and then a doctor said, out of the blue that, oh, well, nobody's going to help you. Nobody's going to ever help you. And just like I did something. And it's like, I'm thinking, what did I do? I didn't do anything. And it's like, I didn't understand it. I just kind of and then I saw a TI website saying that they try to make you feel like you did something. It was in the Netherlands. I forget his name right now. But I noticed that they've had to change the names of their sites ever since somebody does whether Myron May or Gavin Long, something traumatic happened that hits the news, and then suddenly people have to change their names, and it's still going, but it does make you wonder, because this is supposed to be for the rest of your life, and you just know that a lot of the huge numbers people that used to be making these videos for the first 4 or 5, and according to them, they were making videos 8, 9 years ago and 10 years ago, and then suddenly, right when the Havana stuff goes down, then within a year of that, then they suddenly start going away too. Maybe they're finding a life outside of it. And it was weird for me because they did this. This was done to me in not early, I'd say mid 87, 88, the operation. This is when I was studying to be a minister, an evangelical Assembly of God minister. And they did this, and a firm believer, I had questions and doubts, which made me study apologetics, but they still did this to me. And a lot of my constant study, and I literally thought this was the stress of all this. My side pain was because of the stress of studying all the doctrines and questions and doubts and the angst of studying all this theological apologetics and faith and doubt. But it didn't make sense because, well, other people have gone through the same stuff and more and harder lives as far as living in, different countries with, and families and kids. And so they've had it harder. And there's nothing in the history books about studying too much. I mean, there's stress and psychosomatic, but there isn't something that's in DSM about suddenly this constant side pain when you're 13 or 14, or um, and have it constantly be there. And it wasn't until V2K it's like, oh, directed energy, implanted technology, directed energy. They call them directed energy weapons, like it's satellite and it's cell phones and using that technology. But sometimes it's just an implanted technology that they can just from a remote location just boom, push a button and then suddenly a jolt and a shock and having a receiver somewhere, a little, and like I don't know if it's an antenna or if it's a little wire, but you can just hear it. And that they actually are doing it. Icators has one and had a thing a few, probably two months ago in Belgium. And then they had another one, I think August 29th, with Peter Moore. In 2014, they had Covert Harassment Conference. In 2014, had Bill Binney, Ronnie Lind Kund from Finland, Norway, the great doctor who wrote a lot on this stuff. And it was Dr. Henning, I think, or Henning White, I think, Dr. White. But it was very helpful. But it's like, whether it's the fusion centers, they definitely try to make it to where it's really hard to say, because I think Freedom FFTI was with Dr. Matt and Ella Free, the outdoor conferences, get-togethers were outdoor where people could see it. It was wonderful. And like where Mark Williamson, Targeted Individuals United is a great site. Targeted UK with Mark Williamson is great. I can hear the V2K now. They're like, come on. It's like, you can't feel anything. And it's like, I used to think that was because when you're, religious, dying to yourself, picking up your cross, I thought it was because of that. I thought I went too far in studying all that stuff and questions and the stress and doubt. And I literally thought that's what caused it. And I didn't want it to happen to anybody else, so I didn't tell people because I didn't want it to happen to them. But with the V2K started, it's like, oh, I just thought it was some weird voice thing. And it's like, oh, it's got a name. They actually are doing this to people. And it even has an answer for all those things that were, the side pain for all those years. And then what it did is that they would play around when I was, meditating, and then just different parts of the area of the heart and this area too, and the heart, but this area right here, and show that they had control of it. They could go to different areas in there and just, cause it to feel like up here and then down here and then around. And it was like they really had that type of control. And I was just a guinea pig to see. I think they tell people, whether in Dallas or Salem, that it's spiritual or religious reasons that they're doing it to morally make it look okay, to make it look like it's okay to do. But they did this to me when I was studying to be a minister, an apologist, a defender of the faith. And then I started studying a lot of Christian apologetics and atheist apologetics, like from the Freedom from Religion Foundation. Probably in 95, 96, leading, some books and all that. And just because I thought, well, maybe that would answer what happened to my side, all the questions and doubt. But still, I thought the fine-tuning argument was a great argument, and still do. The free will argument seems to prove a dualism and some type of immaterial will. And that's why a lot of the materialists don't believe in free will. It's not because free will is just one of those things that it's just obvious you have it, but it doesn't fit very well. It doesn't fit within computer technology. It just doesn't. It works with materialism. It doesn't work within materialism at all, because materialism, including computer technology, it's always cause and effect. Dominoes. It's, but people, we know that we have the ability to rise above the strongest want or our character. We have the ability to be outside, stand sort of, so to speak, stand outside of our own wishes or wants and do either what we want or do what we should do. We might struggle with it, but we know we have the ability to choose, and that's why we rightfully praise people for doing good things, and we blame people when they do horrible things for no reason, because we know they could have made another choice. I mean, in that, even Paul Kurtz, the writer of the Humanist Manifesto, a great philosopher, wrote in the Transcendental Temptation, many forms of dualism have been offered. Perhaps none of them suffice. It's not plenary verbatim, but it's like maybe there is some form of life after. He was a great philosopher and a great defender for humanistic, but I just think rationally he was honest too. He just thought that dualism, free will, and some other aspects like memory seemed to point to dualism. And you really just want an honest person, not a person who's trying to bend over backwards to defend whatever they're paid to defend. And that's what the world has come down to, especially with the pandemic, with people in the medical community getting paid to say, and suddenly if they don't toe the line, or even on Facebook and stuff, suddenly they get kicked off. They don't have the right of free speech, or they can to themselves. But if they don't say something that is orthodoxy, then suddenly they're kicked off of a platform. So they can still speak it to themselves, but they can't speak it out to the world. Even some of the best doctors in the world in their field suddenly found themselves getting censored because they didn't toe the line of some other doctor who wasn't a specialist in their field. They were the specialist, but they didn't agree with the official, so they got kicked off, even though they were the one opinion that people needed to hear because they were the experts, like Peter McCulloch. So anyway, as a TI, we know it's real. The technology, whether it's Savannah syndrome or Stephen Hawking or scientists that are using this technology to show a person almost paralyzed who can't verbalize or write, they can use their mind and think a thought and have it appear on the screen. It's reading the mind of a person. They can't write it, they can't voice it, but it's something, and they're able to read the thought. It's synthetic telepathy, but they'll call it something else. But it can be in front of the whole world on a TV show, and people won't realize what it is. It's mind reading. So us who are saying we have synthetic telepathy, and that they are through V2K doing this to us as a form of torture to see human brain computer interface or interact, they are doing this. And our doctors are the people that you love and respected, whether if it's your doctors, your teachers, your family, your friends, City Hall. You become their joke. They took a shit on you 30 years ago, hoping you to live your life in a painful, torturous way, and hoping that you would be dead through radiation or off yourself, and then you're still alive, and you found out, and they now know that you found out what they did to you all these years, and all this talk about how religious they are and spiritual, and you're just looking at them. And it's like, really? You're going to drain the swamp, huh? You allowed me to be tortured for 30 years. I took all these pain meds, and if you didn't put me in a torture program, I wouldn't have needed pain meds. I mean, you did this to me all these years. You could have just not put me in a pain torture thing. But they did. They never told me. Not one person from Salem or Dallas or anywhere had the honesty of character to tell me that. At least they allowed me through the computer to see it and to find out. So the FFTI, and I was able to. I don't know if they wanted me to go out like John the Baptist or Elijah and be like, like Mark Williamson, because Dr. Duncan said that a lot of them, they'll try to make TI sink their profits. And I did try to warn people because I thought that the government was going to do something, and, to a lot of people, let's just say. And that was November 2019. And within 3 months, 2 months, 1 month, that's when the pandemic started in China. Actually, it was started before that, in August in 2019. So even in China, this was already going on. We just didn't know it. And so we don't know. And if we were to tell the police or doctors or hospitals, hey, we're warning people, we're the guinea pigs, we are the starting test to see if the people of our town who are pretending to be moral and this and that, it's like the government can blackmail them. Can blackmail them, say, look what you did to this guy or these people who did nothing bad to you. You're willing to torture them, and you took money for it. And my fear is that they're gonna, then tell me what to do. And I personally, I'm not, it's not. I just want them to fix my side, turn off the biometric that's setting off this constant flow of low frequency energy, like a battery or whatever, and let it just feel, because that's happened 10 times, maybe 11, and where they just shut off the electrical charge, and it just relaxed and felt wonderful. The emotions came right back. It was just that quick, within 10 seconds, and it instantly came back, and I felt wonderful. It was like, this is how I'm supposed to feel all the time. And they can do it remotely from wherever they're at, just like that. But instead, I had to take all these pain meds for all these years, and I was thankful for that they prescribed it, but I didn't know that they did this intentionally to me, and they could have at any time either said, no, let's not put them in a torture program. Anyway, I'm thankful for Ella Free, Dr. Matt, and the people that let me know finally after 30 years. I used to pray to God, just heal it, please, or let me know what it is. And at least He let me know what it is, and that this is happening to some other people, so I can help them. But I couldn't go out there and tell people that I knew that this pandemic and don't take a vaccine, because I didn't know and I still don't, if the vaccine is the V2K, or I just know that the government has done this to some people. And I thought, well, if I tell people not to get the vaccine, and I did get it myself because they already did their stuff to me. And this is the very thing that will save their life, because there's a lot of TI groups that are saying that this vaccine is the very same thing that's going to take away people's freedoms. And now they're saying that more, but some were saying at the time, we didn't know if it was true or not. And it's like, well, if they don't take it, then somebody's mom and dad, they're going to be decimated because they did get the shot, and it could have saved their life. And it just shows how shitty our government is in experimenting on us and putting us through this hellacious thing and making us wonder, are we telling people to, or not telling people to? So, and we don't know what the truth is. It's not like anybody from any of these 3-letter agencies are telling the truth about it. Is this going to be something that in 10 years, 20 years from now, starting off like me with a chest pain, and then in 10, 20, or 30 years, they're going to flip a switch, and then suddenly people are going to start, or is it just literally for an actual vaccine? We don't know. Anyway, I'm just glad that there are some real people out there, and it's like an answer to prayer to finally have an answer, to know what it is. And I'm thankful for that. But it does make me realize that the people of my town, it's like, whatever afterlife there is, I hope it's not with these people. Because these are the people that my entire life, they could have done something good to help me, and they chose not to. They could have said, none of them did. I mean, Find a bunch of Buddhists. Maybe they'll be more honest or something. I don't know. I was raised evangelical and say for the evangelical, but it's like find a nice, good people. Anyway. There's a lot of good people in the Christian faith and the evangelical faith. There's good Jewish people, good Muslims, good atheists, but it's just finding the right people and the ones that are genuinely decent. So, and then there's assholes too. So, anyway, I'm going to go make some dinner, and I don't know if the Fusion Center, whoever, will let me actually anybody to read this or see this. But for the other TIs, just keep thank goodness there's Mark Williams, there's Target Individuals United, and the other ones, Frank Allen, and I'm just thankful for those groups and the other ones too, and TJ and stuff, so, and Nicator, so, all right, I'll talk to you guys later. Okay, bye-bye.